Hi, everyone. We'll get started shortly. Please remember to mute yourselves.
Oh, hi Anna. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. I'm good. Thanks for being here.
Is it going to be a one-on-one?
No, we've got a lot of other people on the
Good,
call.
good. All right, awesome.
All right, great. We'll get started. We do have a lot on the agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just to let you know that this is recorded, so if you want to be off screen, that's okay. We have pressed the record button. All right, good morning and welcome to the Equity Workforce and Climate Critical Training Equipment and Infrastructure Grant RFP pre-application webinar. I'm going to start off with some level setting. So please note that we do have dedicated times throughout the presentation for questions. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat and one of our staff admins will either answer the question then and there or call it out during Q&A time. And if your question is not answered during the webinar, please join us for scheduled office hours. The schedule for these can be found on our MassCEC website, and you can get further help over there on those office hours. And then, as I mentioned, please mute your microphones to reduce possible disturbances, and that this meeting is recorded, so turn off your camera if you do not want to be visible in the recording. Also, if you'd like to connect with anyone else on the call, please add your name, organization, and email in the chat. These slides will be available on our website after the presentation. And we do have a packed agenda today, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. So here's an overview of the workforce development team here at MassCEC. My name's Anna Marquez Jackson. I'm a program manager on the training and small business support team. I am joined by several MassCEC workforce development team members here today. We will not be doing individual introductions today, but MassCEC staff, feel free to add your names, titles, and emails to the chat. And on behalf of our team, we look forward to meeting many of you throughout the RFP process. Next slide, please. So today's agenda includes a brief overview of the equity workforce and climate critical training equipment and infrastructure grant funding. We have a section on eligibility, the application process and timeline, as well as opportunities for Q&As. Please know that due to the long presentation and limited time we have together, we might not be able to take more than one or two questions from the chat per QA session. As I mentioned, we will be holding office hours between now and early summer. So if you have any program-specific questions or your questions don't get answered today, we do encourage you to attend those office hours. And after our first Q&A session, we will review the application and process timeline, have more time for questions, then we'll review some information about office hours and network opportunities, and we'll end the presentation with a final Q&A. Next slide, please. So the RFPs that we're going to talk about today are an outcome of the Workforce Equity Fund, which was established in 2021 by the Massachusetts legislature, setting aside $12 million annually to support the clean energy sector, ensuring an equitable and inclusive industry in Massachusetts. MassCEC does this through supporting minority and women-owned business enterprises, also known as MWBEs, doing business within the clean energy sector and expanding hiring as they grow. In conjunction, we also work to increase job pipelines and clean energy occupations. Also note that the new 3-year Mass Save plan includes $24 million per year. Next slide, please. The fiscal year 2026 state budget sets aside $9 million, drawing from the Renewable Energy Trust Fund, the FY25 state budget, and the Climate Protection Mitigation Expendable Trust, made available by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection to be expended for the clean energy workforce development initiatives directed by the Massachusetts Clean Energy and Climate Plan for 2050. Next slide. MassCEC has four key focus areas, including emerging climate tech, offshore energy, accelerating decarbonization, and workforce development. The RFPs we'll be discussing today relate to our workforce development focus area. Next slide. Occupations critical to the Commonwealth achieving 2030 emission goals and net zero emissions in 2050 include net zero grid sector occupations, high performance building sector occupations, offshore wind sector occupations, and clean transportation sector occupations. Applicants are encouraged to consult the MassCEC Clean Energy Needs Assessment and the companion data workbook, both available at masscec.com. You can also review this information on page 11 of the Equity Training RFP and page 7 of the Climate Critical Training RFP. Next slide, please. We are supporting specific populations with this RFP. You can scan the QR code on the slide for more information. But specifically for the equity training RFP, the first target population is individuals that live in environmental justice neighborhoods. These individuals are disproportionately negatively impacted by climate change. These bullets on the slide outline what is legislated as meeting the criteria for an EJ neighborhood. The QR code also leads you to an interactive map that you can look into specific neighborhoods around the Commonwealth, and you can see whether they qualify as EJ neighborhoods. Also included in target populations under the ETRFP are members of underrepresented communities in the clean energy workforce, current or former workers from fossil fuel industry, and members of federally recognized or state acknowledged tribes. Next slide, please. This slide showcases examples of priority occupations within the climate critical sector. You may also review the RFPs for a more detailed example of the different occupations, but some of the occupations listed here include electricians, solar installers, customer service reps, HVAC technicians, and EV technicians. Next slide. So we are offering several different funding opportunities. At this moment, these opportunities are being dispersed via 3 RFPs, as you can see on this chart. On the far right, we have a climate critical underrepresented small business support RFP. This funding opportunity is not open just yet, but will be released in November. But you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen to get information on the FY25 RFP. The 2 RFP opportunities that we will be talking about today are the Climate Critical Training Equipment and Infrastructure RFP and then the Equity Workforce Training RFP. The Climate Critical Training RFP on the left in green, as you can see, is up to $800,000 and for up to 2 years, while the Equity Workforce Training RFP focuses on the target populations I mentioned in a prior slide and is up to $1.2 million and awarded for up to 3 years. Something to note is that the ETRFP also includes planning and capacity grants to prepare for implementation if you find that you're not quite ready for a full-on implementation grant. There are some key differences between the 2 RFPs that we will be going over in today's webinar, but you can scan the QR codes you see there to go to the web pages for each one. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there are some slight differences between the 2. The biggest difference is the target population that is eligible for each RFP. So on the left in blue, you can see that the equity training RFP is focused on the target populations mentioned before, whereas the climate critical RFP is eligible for any Massachusetts residents. We do recognize that many training programs recruit from both populations. So if that is the case, we encourage you to apply for both, for funding from both, and you can blend and braid the funds together. But that is to say that the two different RFPs have slightly different focus strands. So I do want to highlight this as the strand definitions have changed from previous solicitations. So we will be going more into detail about that in this webinar. Next slide. We will also be releasing student and young adult focused RFPs in the near future. And so you can see in this decision chart here how to decide which RFP you should apply to depending on your target participants. If you're training 18 and under participants, you should apply to the student and young adult RFPs that are coming soon. If you're training anyone who's over 24, you should focus on the two RFPs we'll be talking about today. And if you are in that gray area of 18 to 24 young adult age range, it will come down to the off-ramps that your training focuses on. So if you're focused on career readiness or career pathway and technical skill development, that would result in some sort of placement at the end of the program, whether it's an apprenticeship or direct placement, then you should consider the two RFPs that we're talking about today. Also, please note that grants that will be requesting equipment or infrastructure support should apply under the CCT RFP. There is a more detailed version of this chart on the RFP pages that you can review as well. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about who's eligible to apply for these RFPs. MassCEC defines the lead applicant as having a Massachusetts-based office for staffing, and they must be able to submit a certificate of good standing from the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. You can also see here a list of some of the eligible entities that can serve as a lead applicant. This includes community-based entities, for-profit entities, and other workforce development organizations. Please refer to the RFPs for more information regarding eligibility. Next slide. In terms of partnerships, we look upon very favorably on partnerships as they help deliver a range of expertise for programs, for your program. So while one party will need to take the role of the lead applicant, as you can see on this slide, all entities are eligible to lead. We do encourage you to pick partnerships that are best suited for you and your program, and that will provide the best support services for your needs. There are overlapping skills that organizations share to help applicants with their program proposal. So for example, a school may look to other employer partners besides just career centers for job placement, such as workforce nonprofits or other workforce employer partners. Next slide. So now we do have some time for a Q&A. So if there's any questions in the chat, if a MassCEC staff admin could shout them out, we can use the space to answer one or two.
No questions yet, Anna.
Okay, great. There will be more opportunities for questions later on in the webinar, especially as we deep dive into the different RFPs. So for now, I'm going to pass it over to Omni to continue. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, so next slide, please. We're gonna walk you through the actual application process. Next slide, please. Thanks. So this is a broad overview of the application process, but the first step is to read the RFP and all the attachments thoroughly, just to understand the goals of the RFP solicitation. The second step is to interact with all of our RFP resources, such as attending this webinar or attending office hours, which we'll also get into in a later slide. We also encourage those with questions to reach out to wfdtraining@masscec.com. My colleague is going to drop that in the chat. And the last step to officially apply is to submit all forms and attachments adhering to their instructions and requirements by May 1st, 2026. Next slide, please. Okay, so the slide details an extensive application with all the materials that are found on each RFP's website. Each attachment has individual instructions on how to fill out that specific form. When you submit your application, you're only required to submit attachments 1, 2, and 3. Also, 2 letters of support or MOUs from employer partners are required to be submitted as well. Attachments 4, 5, and 6 are for your review and reference only, so you don't have to return them. Next slide, please. So here's a brief timeline of the application process for both the equity training and climate critical RFPs. So obviously today is our pre-application webinar. We have pre-application office hours that are ongoing that we'll talk about throughout this presentation. The first deadline for applications to be submitted is December 10th, and the final date for submissions is May 1st. Interviews of applicants will be as needed, and then applicants are going to be notified spring/summer of 2026. And for program planning purposes, just expect contract execution 4 to 6 months from the deadline that you are applying for. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to run through some of the selection criterion items that we generally consider when reviewing equity training and climate critical applications. And as always, please refer to the RFPs for more detailed information. So the very first is the applicant and partner experience. What we're really looking to see over here is, does the applicant have a track record of working with the target population? Is there more information on a track record of workforce development success? And is there a defined network of partnerships? The next is target occupations and population. So we're looking to see if an applicant targets the correct target population and occupations in alignment with the climate critical sectors that are listed in the RFP, as well as to see if the proposal understands potential barriers of the target population and if there's multiple career pathways for advancement. And then the next one is outcomes, budget, and leverage resources. So does the proposed program have strong outcomes and a way to measure and track those outcomes? Does the actual budget itself reflect a reasonable participant cost? And is there an identification of funding to continue this program post not MassCEC grant funding? We'll get into some more details about these criteria in the presentation, but just briefly, we're looking to see that the application has a reasonable duration dosage, as well as a clear case management plan. Next slide, please. So the next set of criteria is around job placement and employer engagement. So does the applicant have a strong level of employer engagement throughout the project, as well as are there clear job placement pathways for participants within this program? The wraparound social support services, we're looking to see if the applicant has a strong case management plan that really understands the barriers of the participants, as well as provide support retention services. And then post-placement criteria refers to applicants having a clear retention plan for at least 6 months post-placement, and we'll continue to monitor and track these participants for 12 months after placement. And then lastly, diversity of approaches criteria. So we recognize that there isn't a one-size-fits-all or single way to run a program. What we're really looking for are unique, strong approaches that fill many industry needs and gaps in the workforce training space. Next slide, please. So to kind of go further into diversity of approaches, during scoring, we take into account various features. So for example, if we know there's a training desert for a certain occupation in a certain region, that might result in a higher score for an application. In addition to that, if there are innovative and novel approaches. So for example, this shows that there just isn't one career pathway for a given sector. For example, you can start off in customer service, you can get technical training, and then you can move to a more specialized role such as an auditor. And then another example is that we have groups providing ecosystem support. So they're not delivering direct training, but instead are offering career navigation through portals and coaching. And so it's a different yet valuable approach to workforce development. We're open to different ideas as long as they fit the needs of the ecosystem. And so if you're unsure if your program design fits an RFP, we highly advise that you come to our open office hours, since that'll be the space to really discuss concepts a little bit more freely. And just be aware that they are drop in, drop out open office hours, so anyone in the ecosystem can hear what's shared. Next slide, please. So there are some standards and best practices on traditional training pipelines. We have a great ecosystem in Massachusetts with a lot of organizations using great workforce development approaches. And what this chart represents is that during our scoring, but also just generally in terms of best practice approaches, we're looking for a clear outreach and recruitment plan. Having a strong intake and assessment plan is very important because we find that a lot of programs will not invest as much time into intake and assessment, and then they bring on individuals who might not be as interested in completing the program. So then there is technical training. And so this is also important to match the needs of the employer. So there's employability at the tail end of training. And then the placement plan has to be more coordinated than just simply directing people to job listings. For us, retention is pretty big. And so in a lot of occupations we see, training can be short, but keeping someone in that occupation can be difficult just because there's a lot of barriers, not just for the job itself, but as well for the populations that we're supporting. And so the two arrows above and below represent that. We believe it's a best practice to make sure that the wraparound support services are happening throughout the process and even post-placement. A lot of the successes that we see in the best programs are when an employer is engaged throughout the process and that they're also involved in the curriculum itself. So for example, they're providing a mock interview practice, or they're touching base with the participants from day one so that there's some familiarity and understanding from both ends. And so everyone can just meet each other where they're at. And that's generally what we view as a best practice, generally speaking about a workforce pipeline. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned on a prior slide, we have open office hours. We strongly suggest that you come to them if you're considering applying. There is going to be a QR code on the next slide that we'll put up that goes to the equity training RFP landing page. And that's really the best way to check in about the dates and just decide which ones you can sign up for. They are drop in, drop out. So if you are tight on time, you don't have to stay the full hour. And the other thing that we try to emphasize is partnerships are key. We recognize that a lot of these programs are very comprehensive and difficult to do. And so you need a lot of support. You need a lot of support both in terms of staff, but also in terms of options for off-ramping people and options for providing additional support that maybe your organization can't solely provide. And so we strongly advise that you talk to other groups and find partners to come in with. Next slide, please. So I'll pause here for just a second, but again, here are the office hours. These are the dates coming up. So the very first one is going to be November 4th at 12 p.m. And anyone can join any of the office hours regardless of which RFP they're applying for. And I'll pass it back to Anna for additional information.
Great, thanks, Omni. If you will go to next slide, please. So we're going to take a deeper look at the different application strands for each RFP, but we'll be starting with the equity workforce training RFP that I'll go over. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, all three strands of the ET RFP can have a program duration of 6 months to up to 3 years. And this really depends on the type of award within each strand that you receive. We do require an additional year of monitoring that should be included in your proposal. So for example, if you propose a 2-year training program that includes 2 years of planning, recruitment, training, job placement or advancement, post-placement retention programs such as coaching and support services, then your proposal should also include 1 year of monitoring after that 2-year period, so you can track the participant outcomes. Participant outcomes should include, for example, retention in the job 6 months later, a salary change, or job advancement opportunities. The monitoring phase should be included in your proposal, as I mentioned, and it should also be reflected in the duration of the grant and the proposed budget that are included in your application. Next slide. Now I'll be going over the program highlights for each strand. So for strand A, the goal is to enable underrepresented individuals to obtain and retain employment in high quality climate critical occupations and to attain career growth. This includes the attainment of skill, certifications, and support needed for placement in clean energy careers. This can also include wraparound support services such as childcare, transportation, language assistance, as well as case management and direct financial supports. Addressing these barriers for our priority populations has been shown to increase the training completion and job retention and advancement. Successful proposals will address barriers for the targeted population in their application. So if you're a Strand A application, if your Strand A application also includes Strand B elements of career awareness and exploration for success, you wouldn't need to submit a second Strand B application, but rather you would incorporate the career preparedness navigation scope of work in your Strand A proposal. So that is to say, if you were to submit two applications for the different strands, they would need to be very distinct programs from each other. Next slide. Moving on to Strand B. So the goal of Strand B is to equip adult learners and job seekers from target populations with the foundational skills, experiences, and knowledge needed to successfully enter training and advance in clean energy careers. A successful Strand B application will lead to off-ramps and into next steps. Next steps could include trainings or hands-on experience, like, for example, pre-apprenticeships, apprenticeships, or further technical training. While the award range is different from Strand A, both strands should still include wraparound supports and support services, as well as the additional outcome tracking and monitoring for the participants. Next slide. So the final strand under the ETRFP is Strand C. Strand C is focused on planning or capacity programs that will eventually lead to implementation or to run a pilot cohort focused on career pathway training or training preparedness. Depending on whether it's planning or capacity, the award range and duration will vary. Strand C grantees are still expected to consider the same program outcomes and metrics as required from the other two strands to track and report within the design of final implementation grants. Next slide. Now we're going to deep dive a little bit more into the program elements for each strand under the equity training RFP. So in addition to the selection criteria Omni highlighted previously, for the Strand A career pathway training, we're also looking to see that the training design and delivery is comprehensive and that the training model embraces innovative and proven strategies to increase participant success. The program design should include case management and support services tailored to meet participant needs and promote completion, retention, and advancement. When it comes to wraparound and placement support, we're also looking to see that participants have comprehensive access to wraparound and support services, as well as retention services, including career counseling and/or mentoring for at least 6 months post-training, although best practice would be a year post-training of this. We are looking to see that retention plans include various approaches to support continued participant career advancement in high-quality jobs. Next slide. In terms of Strand B, under the Clean Energy Career Awareness, Exploration, Navigation, and Preparedness, we're looking to see that program design and delivery features a clear and thoughtful range of exposures and career pathway options, including clear access to next steps for participant off-ramps. Off-ramps can include pathways into training, pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship, or direct employment. We're also looking to see that there's a comprehensive access to wraparound services, including support services and retention services, such as career counseling, mentoring, at least 6 months post-training, although again, the best practice would be 1 year post-training. Strand B applicants will be reviewed on the level of support relative to the type of off-ramps that the program involves. Next slide. Regarding Strand C, planning and capacity grants, we're looking for applicants with strong partnerships and experience serving that target population that they're applying for. The program should align with climate critical occupations and the target populations while also addressing the barriers. The result of the planning process would be a comprehensive implementation plan informed by workforce development best practices or support applicants increasing organizational capacity to enable full implementation. Capacity grants may involve smaller scale implementation activities to provide direct service, training, or support to eligible target populations. Next slide. Now moving on to outcomes and post-training activities. Under Strand A, successful applications will include milestones that indicate successful completion for individual participants. So as you can see on the slide, we have some examples of what those milestones could be. We are looking to see that there's plans to engage relevant partners to provide off-ramps to participants. And so when it comes to these employer partners, we want to see comprehensive placement strategies that include dedicated job development staff through either the lead applicant or partners under letters of support or MOUs. And on that topic, we are requesting that you submit 2 letters of support or MOUs with the application. Next slide. Under Strand B, for outcomes and post-exploration activities, successful applications will also include milestones that indicate the successful completion for individual participants. This might look a little different from the Strand A outcomes. So under Strand B, we are looking for descriptions of plans to engage partners around the setting up of off-ramps for participants, and this could include either employers or training providers. And again, we are looking for letters of support for or MOUs from at least 2 partners that would be offering these off-ramps. Next slide, please. Finally, for Strand C, grantees will be expected to consider program outcomes and metrics, just like implementation grant requirements that should be included in the final design of the plan. Successful Strand C applications will also engage relevant partners, including training providers and employers, and they will also be required to submit those 2 letters of support or MOUs from at least 2 partners that offer those off-ramps. But that is it for the equity training RFP information. If you have any specific questions on this RFP, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll have a staff admin either answer them or call them out in the Q&A session. But I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Sam right now to talk about the CCT RFP. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Anna. So I'm going to talk about the climate critical workforce training equipment and infrastructure grant. We can go to the next slide. Are you able to hear me? Okay, thank you. So we have the Strand roadmap here. As you can see, most of the grants go for a period of up to 2 years. And like the equity grant, Strand A and B, after 2 years, require an additional year of monitoring with light touch, reporting, and participant tracking. So please make sure that you are developing your budgets and program timelines to address that. We can go to the next slide, please. So we're going to talk about Strand A. And as you can see, very similar to Strand A and on the equity side, the differences aside from the award range and duration, the primary difference is that climate critical does not require priority populations when recruiting. So you can recruit any Mass resident. And other than that, we will be looking for a comprehensive training plan, as well as wraparound services that incorporate support services and case management. We'd also be looking for placement support into the clean energy careers with a minimum of 6 months, retention support in tracking, although 1 year is ideal and considered best practices. So we recommend tracking for 1 year during that placement support. We can go to the next slide. For Strand B, the goal of this strand is to provide opportunities for workers already employed in the trades and to increase their working clean energy. And what we'll be looking for here are ways of creating or expanding career advancement programs and upskilling, as well as wraparound and retention support to address barriers. An example of this could be a community college with an existing HVAC training curriculum, working with an employer partner to develop an additional heat pump curriculum, and partner with a community-based organization providing training, stipends, and wraparound support services to ensure current HVAC technicians can gain access to upskilling programs in areas of employment. We can go to the next slide. For Strand C, this strand its purpose is for assisting in securing modern equipment and infrastructure resources for CCT training, particularly in securing the modern equipment. Any equipment supporting existing programs with measurable outcomes will be prioritized over new programs to ensure that we meet our 2030 climate goals. And an example of this would be a training center associated with a labor union focused on climate critical trades purposes and additional equipment, and accesses it to an online training platform that will expand their apprenticeships, knowledge, and exposure of new technology to the critical state and decarbonization plans. We can go to the next slide. So for Strand D, this is a new strand, and the goal of this is to expand training program capacity by ensuring dedicated resources are available for instructor development. So you can think of this as kind of a trainer. The goal here is really to enhance instructors' effectiveness in making sure that they align with industry standards and the evolving technology and new practices within that. And an example of that could be a community college identifies a tradesperson with extensive industry and technical knowledge, but lacks that teacher experience. And they develop a co-teaching model where an experienced educator is matched with a trade person to deliver the training courses. And we can go to the next slide. So now we'll look at some additional selection criteria for Strand A. We'll be looking at program design, the training delivery, support service, and placement retention. So we're really looking for a comprehensive training plan, as well as a comprehensive placement strategy. And we are looking for the program designed to include case management and support services for retention and placement. And more information on that can be found on page 24 of the RFP. We can go to the next slide. Selection criteria for Strand B. We are really looking again for a detailed training program, but we'll also be looking for clear and imminent opportunities for workers. And the proposal should include a clear and imminent opportunities for workers to utilize to develop training. We can go to the next page. So for Strand C, we'll be looking at program impact on training. And what we're looking for here is if the training leads to an additional or improved climate critical skills, or does the equipment purchase demonstrate sustainability of training program after the initial award. And additional selection criteria can also be found on page 25 of the RFP. And we can move to the next slide. So for Strand D, we'll be looking at a few things. First is the program design. Again, we're looking for a detailed training plan, as well as industry recognized certifications and credentials associated with that training. And it should include a clear and imminent opportunities for instructors to utilize their developed training. And we can go to the next slide. So more on Strand D, we'll also be looking at the impact on the existing training. So is this increasing the availability, quality, effectiveness of the climate critical training? Will this be increasing the number of students able to participate in the existing program or creating new programs to meet the demonstrated demand? And we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So now we'll look at outcomes and what a successful applicant will include. So for Strand A, a successful applicant should attain industry recognized credentials, licenses to engage relevant partners and to provide off-ramps to participants. They should also provide increased wages for incumbent workers, as well as plans to engage relevant partners to provide off-ramps to participants, which will include memorandums of understanding and letters of support. You can go to the next slide, please. Outcomes for Strand B, a successful applicant will include a detailed training plan with clear benefits to incumbent workers and participating employees, as well as those industry recognized credentials and certificates. We will also be looking for a clear and imminent opportunity for workers to utilize skills developed in the training. And in addition to that, we'd also be looking for those letters of support and memorandums of understanding from at least 2 partners in employment or community-based organizations. And we can go to the next slide, please. So for Strand C, a successful grant will be looking for descriptions of capacity building supported by the equipment purchased. We'll be looking at steps that were selected to procure the equipment and integrated into the program, as well as descriptions of how the equipment will improve the program, as well as identifying any programmatic gaps and needs that will be addressed. We can go to the next slide, please. For Strand D, a successful applicant will have a few things. So we're looking for an initial vision of instructor capacity building, which includes description of climate critical occupations impacted by the increased capacity. We'll be looking at the steps to select, procure, and integrate the trained instructor into the existing program. And then we'll be looking at how it impacts the program by describing how the instructor's training will improve the program or grow it, and any additional follow-on curriculum training opportunities available upon completion of that. And we can go to the next slide, please. So that is it for the climate critical piece. We'll now leave it open to, we'll not open it, but please put your questions in the chat and we will try to address as many of those as we can in time. And I will pass it to Omni to proceed.
Yeah, so we'll move forward with some other opportunities sponsored by MassCEC. I'm going to pass it over to Janelle just to share a little bit more.
Hello, I am going to speak briefly about some of our student and young adult opportunities that are coming up. One of them is our internship will be opening for the spring in about 2 weeks. This would allow 140 spots for students or anyone who is pursuing a training or certification in order to be part of or internship for about 12 weeks. There are also construction maintenance and installation positions. Those positions can go year round, just based on, but also for 12 weeks based on the program. We pay up to $18. People can be paid more than, but this is what we reimburse employers for. And in some cases, we also reimburse for a portion of the taxes. The minimum wage, of course, is $15. And then sometimes we have people use this as a way of de-risking the hire. So it is a good program for those things. The other one that we just want to briefly touch on for the student and young adult funding is just so everyone is aware, we do have a curriculum out that is around what are some of the careers that this may look like. So as people think about, well, if you're doing career awareness and you're looking into some of these careers, what do these look like? What is some of the technology that's involved? You may take a moment to look at the curriculum and see how we ourselves have thought about these. And that was released officially in April, so it's fairly relevant, and there should be some more topics coming soon. So that is it in terms of the some of the additional funding or opportunities that may help with some of the grant writing that you all are taking part of. And I'll pass it back to Ami.
Thanks, Janelle. Next slide, please. So that concludes our presentation for the day. Thank you everyone for joining us. And if you do have any questions, you can send them to wfdtraining@masscec.com, or you can attend one of our many upcoming office hours. And we look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you very much and take care.